Hi, I'm Norm DePasquale. I'm running to be your next MP of Spadina Harbourfront, and I'm here with Stripper News.
Stripper News! Let's protect Stripper News.
Absolutely, let's protect Stripper News.
I'm not sure if I'm going to vote at all.
Cost of housing is like really, really bad.
Trudeau himself on live TV said he was a Zionist, and I'm like, okay.
Hi, I'm Andrea with Stripper News. Have you heard? There's an election on April 28th. Do you know which political daddy you're strategically voting for? Leading in the polls, we've got Mark Carney. He's a banker daddy. He's so fiscally responsible, he keeps an Excel spreadsheet with all the money he's been tipping you over the years. Is he the man to stand up to Trump, or is he just more business as usual? And then there's Jagmeet Singh of the NDP, who's around. Does anyone know where the NDP is? Or what they stand for? Or is Canada's daddy the conservative Pierre Poilievre, the guy who rose to power as the leader of the opposition by parroting Trump's populist rhetoric? There's also the Greens co-leader, Jonathan Padneau, who is queer and honestly pretty hot. He's also a former journalist, Stripper News, and a climate justice activist. Keep an eye on him.
Keep it coming.
Do you plan on strategically voting this election?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not sure if I'm going to vote at all, honestly.
Really? Why not?
I'm not sure that I believe in the systems that are in place, but I do recognize that it's important to vote.
I'd vote NDP if I was voting with my heart. But I know everyone tells me to vote Liberal because it's the two-party system or whatever.
What are the issues that you feel like they're not talking about that you think they should be doing?
Conservatives are trying to roll back abortion. They don't want to let people under 18 start transitioning, and I think that is really harmful because that is important healthcare.
Oh, well, I think education is a mess. I think everyone is being brought up to be a worker in a capitalistic system.
I know Palestine's a pretty important issue.
Trudeau himself on live TV said he was a Zionist, and I'm like, okay. I would really like to not have a government that wants to put as much money towards it.
Cost of housing is really, really bad. I feel that's also a big one, especially because I'm a student, so Stripper News.
Well, no, I think that the biggest issue right now is affordability and housing in our major cities. And I think they're talking about it. I think they need to have clearer plans about it. Stripper News.
We're talking Canadian culture. Do we have one? You can't get big in Canada until you get big in the US. And now that our sovereignty is being threatened by our noisy neighbors down south, it's more important than ever. They say you can't make it in Canada unless you make it big in America first. All our talent seems to move to LA. Except Colin Mockery. Does Canada have a culture?
There's so much diversity.
I think Canadian culture is not monolithic. It's constantly evolving every day. I heard someone talking about Canadian culture in the sense that people are always doing barbecues, they're always at their cottages, and they're at diners, some sort of 50s romanticized imagery. And I think that is very racially and class coded, so we shouldn't fall into that category.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sarah Diamond, and I'm President Emerita at Oakhead University. Not only is Canadian culture worth protecting, we must protect it now. Canadian cultures, let's say, let's use the plural, because it is the way that we can look at the basic fundamental rights that we all have as individuals and also as groups. Actually, culture helps us be healthy, both physically and also it really supports our mental health.
Our school rocks!
We need that in the face of the threat from the U.S.
Stripper News. Could you introduce yourself for us?
Of course, I'm Norm DePasquale. I'm running to be your next MP of Spadina Harbourfront.
What is Canadian culture?
This is the identity of Canada across Canada and the things that tie us together. Now, whether that be, us exploring the great outdoors, canoeing, kayaking, a nice hockey game on a frozen pond somewhere, these are some of the things that make up Canadian culture, which we have to fight to preserve.
Stripper News. What do you think the government can do to better support Canadian artists?
Oh, there's many things that government can do to support Canadian artists. We need to make sure that there are rights protections for artists. We need to make sure that people are educated to know how to use AI effectively and support themselves. but also how to think critically about how to contain it.
Speaking as an artist who graduated from OCAD and now works here, I think, like all the funding and the grants and everything, like we see like all the time that government grants are being cut, artists are not being supported, and then we don't have access to healthcare and we don't have access to even go to OCAD or other school where you can get a degree.
The government, first of all, should create not only online spaces but more physical spaces where people can perform out in the open. And second, they can regulate the digital spaces, because I think streaming services and these huge companies like Spotify, Facebook, they're taking a lot of revenue which should be going to independent artists. So those are two things.
About how critical Indigenous artists and arts and culture are to this country, our history, our identity, and make sure that we put in special supports for Indigenous people and their cultures.
As an artist, I always advocate for healthcare and mental health, especially for artists, and making sure that we have access to resources.
Yeah, so when we talk about Buy Canada, it should be Buy Canadian art and culture as well. So, this is a time where we have to bring Canada's voices forward. Don't be humble. Let's get out there and be really proud of our Canadian culture and identity. And, there's nobody down south who can take that away from us if we stand up and, we hold tightly what makes us all so proud to be Canadian.
Do you have a favorite Canadian movie?
I have a favorite Canadian cartoon, and it's called 16. I used to love it so much. I used to watch it all the time in Bangladesh, and I loved it so much.
It was on Teletoon here.
Yeah. And then I met my friend in animation, and she actually did a lot of work for Teletoon, and she even did like an internship, so it was really cool.
Shout out to 16.
Yes.
You could go. How do you feel about the threats to the national public broadcaster?
We have to save CBC and fight for it with everything we got. I mean, this is the only option some people have for their local news. In remote parts of Canada, it's just the CBC. And then we have like Chorus kind of teetering on bankruptcy, and then a lot of American media knocking on the door. We got to stand up for CBC. I want more Hockey Night in Canada.
Hi, I'm Andrea with Stripper News, here at the forward corner of Speaker's Corner. R.I.P.
Fun statistic for you: more people regret getting Harry Potter tattoos than people who regret transitioning.
You don't think there's any risk of America invading Canada?
Our very kind of, sovereignty right now is under threat. So this is a great time to build up Canada and stand up and fight for Canada that we love.
How big of an issue is Trump for you?
You can say all he wants, but he's not really getting in here.
You can tell he's not a seasoned politician.
Stripper News.
I mean, the arts are really what makes the world go round. And to me, it's like marketing. You always get a return on your investment when you invest in arts and culture.
Stripper News. Stripper News. So what's more important than voting then?
Thinking about how you affect the lives of the people around you. I think if everyone did that, everything would get better.
Just based off of our odds as a trans person, I cannot let Conservatives win, so I'm going to have to vote Liberal, which is not something I would usually do. But for the greater good of me and my community, it's kind of like my best option at the moment. Otherwise, ideally, I'm like an NDP guy. Yeah.
What kind of action do you do that substitutes your inclination to vote?
Ooh, substitutes is a huge word.
But I'm like considering voting NDP just because like I feel like it's better like to just like vote with like what you actually want. But yeah.
Stripper News!
Stripper News!
Voting's important. Go vote.
When it comes to voting strategically, think local. If the shitty candidate in your riding is at risk of winning, then go ahead and vote for the party that most aligns with your values. Love it. Amazing. Stripper News. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely.
The pleasure was all mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Stripper News, for the wonderful interview. Have a warm day.
Stripper News.
No, I should say have a hot day, Stripper News.
Ooh.